So I'd like to say a couple of words about this particular meditation, which I like to start every meeting with, because this is a kind of microcosm of the invitation to how you can spend your life. Because when we do this meditation, we are looking inside and we are simply accepting whatever is there. We're not trying to change anything, because we fundamentally know, or many of us know, that there's nobody inside who can change anything. So we are just using the witness, the awareness, to bring it to bear on whatever is the strongest, which you can immediately recognize. And of course, over the next minute or two, that usually changes, or very often changes. And if we would carry on doing it for long enough, the tendency would be it changes towards silence. And this silence could even be a very profound silence, the silence of emptiness itself, of your essence. So this is a possibility that if we would do it long enough, that the mind would quieten down, assuming you've done some meditation before and got a quieter mind. Any feelings that you might have brought to this meeting will have also quietened down. And so the whole movement is towards a profound silence, a profound emptiness. And this emptiness we can also call our essence, or our being, or our true nature. There are different words. Many traditions have different words for that. And this is, of course, just a few minutes of, in a way, guided meditation. And of course, if you look at how you're living your life from moment to moment, you can probably see that you're constantly having some efforts of the mind to create something that you think will be good for you, which you think will be better than what you have now. It will lead you towards whatever it is you think you want or need. And we all live like that. Everybody lives like that, and everybody lives with the idea that there is somebody, and this somebody can do all that. And yeah, this is a completely false idea, of course, but very common. Almost everybody has this idea. And I think we have quite a mature group today. So most of you have had a glimpse, at least, where you saw that you're not running the show. You're not the producer of your movie. Anyway, so yeah, that's why I always start with this meditation, because it's pointing to how you could let go and allow, if you like, God to be the producer of your movie. And of course, anyway, God is, whether you invite him, he actually has always been the producer of your movie, or director of your movie. So yeah. Anyway, so this week I've had a very particular week, because about 2 months ago, through the internet, through an email, out of the blue, I got a book. Somebody sent me a whole book. And this book was really, really touching me deeply, because this book was a journal which somebody called Jean Dunn had made over the last 5 years of Nisargadatta's Maharaj's life, the last 5 years of his life in Bombay. Most of you, I think, are familiar with Maharaj, that he's one of the 3 great contemporary, recent non-duality teachers. We have Ramana Maharshi, we have Papaji, and we have Maharaj. I would say without any doubt, these three are the three famous Indian masters who were actually saying the same thing. Papaji anyway was a disciple of Ramana Maharshi, and Papaji always said he was a channel for Ramana Maharshi. And Maharaj was saying basically the same things as Ramana Maharshi was saying. And Jean Dunn was an American woman who came to India and was staying, I'm not sure, either in Ramana Ashram or close to Ramana Ashram. She was anyway connected with Ramana Ashram. And there was a group of Western people who were living there, very sincere followers of Ramana Maharshi. But they also would go sometimes to Bombay and stay with Maharaj. And many of you know the story that he was actually living in a very small house in the red light district in one of the market streets in Bombay, very crowded and noisy place. And when he was a bit younger, he had developed a beedi business. Beedis are Indian cigarettes. And he had developed in fact, 5 shops where he sold these cigarettes. And then one day he came to see that he didn't have any more interest in family life. He had a wife, I think 2 daughters and a son. And he left the businesses with the family, probably some extended family member took over the daily running of the shops. And he went off walking in India, walking towards the Himalayas in India. And his plan was, in fact, never to come back. But actually, along the way of this journey, he met somebody who pointed out to him that, in fact, you could have a satisfying spiritual life and at the same time have a family and at the same time be in the world. So he came back and he built up on the roof a small room for his meditation. And then gradually, people started finding him. And towards the end of his life, there were constantly Western people coming to him. And so anyway, through the post, through the internet, I got a whole book, a 120-page book called Jean, wait a minute, I'll tell you exactly what it's called. Jean Dunn's Journals, Being with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. And this is her personal diary, day by day, week by week, month by month, over the last 5 years of his life, when she was still based in Ramana Ashram, but would regularly travel to Bombay and spend actually longer and longer periods of time in Bombay with Maharaj. So it's a fascinating journal because it's written in a very honest way so that she's not making herself into, how can I say, always being spiritually correct. She's also writing about the times when things aren't going very well, when she's losing the plot and so on. And she's talking about the practical reality of coming to Bombay and finding somewhere to stay and so on and so on. So you get a very beautiful picture of how it was for those people who stayed with Maharaj. And also how simple of a man he was. And Jean Dunn appears to me to be a very remarkable person because while she was staying with him, she transcribed some of his talks and she produced 3 books. Probably the most interesting one is this one. I don't know if you can see it. So this is actually the last 5 years of his talks. It's called The Final Talks of Maharaj, Consciousness and the Absolute. Consciousness and the Absolute. So this is available on Amazon, and I've decided to republish these journals. So they had been published, and now they're out of publishing, out of print, and suddenly this thing has arrived. I've made some inquiries, and it's no longer copyrighted. It was put together about 45, 50 years ago. And in fact, amongst a certain group of American spiritual people, it has been passed around as a photocopy. So anyway, this is a very, very touching document. It absolutely deserves to be republished. And so I'm going to do that. And in fact, we'll publish it in English and German. So we're actually started today to translate it, because this week, I've been able to go through and edit a bit here or there. It only needed very small touches. Actually, it was already very well edited. And we've, what do you call it? Formatted. We've formatted it. Somebody in the community, Prema, has formatted it very quickly in 2 days. So just in a few days, this book is already now launched into production. And now it's starting to be translated, I hope, today or tomorrow. If any of you would like to get involved in this, then get in touch with Indira. So this is one of the kind of things that makes me feel very good inside, because I'm personally touched from having a close association with the text. And also I feel that other people will also be touched. And so it feels very nice to be able to put this out into the world. Of course, we can't make money with this kind of book, and I can only do this kind of work because I've got a community around me. And this community, I think you all know, is a particularly special kind of community, because the people are ready to be in service. So this service is, for example, creating this book. And we've got people who will do the graphics, who will select the photographs, make a beautiful cover, and organize the printing, and supervise the printing, and all those kind of things. And then finally, we have our own press, and we have our own distribution through many countries. We have distributors in Spain, in England, in Germany, in India, Australia, America, of course. We have 6 or 7 distributors who we send the books to, and they distribute them in their countries. This is all completely amazing to me, because recently I had gone from South India to North India to Rishikesh. Rishikesh is one of the kind of hot spiritual places in India. It's a small town where, because it's more or less at the foothills of the Ganga River, the foothills of the Himalayas, for some reason, it's become a special place with many ashrams. And so I went there after many years, probably after about 20 years, I returned to Rishikesh, found a few old friends, and had some meetings. And there were 5 or 6 bookshops with selling spiritual books. Must be the biggest concentration of spiritual bookshops in the world, I think. And then I could find my books. They're not so easily available in most bookshops, but here in Rishikesh, there were 3 different bookshops where I could find my books. And of course, this is very, very touching, because these are like babies. You know, we put these babies out in the world, and you don't know quite where they're going to end up. So this was actually quite touching for me, because producing these books and distributing the books, it's a whole big story, which we've now been doing for about 15 years. Anyway, so enough of all that. But what I would like to focus on is that Jean Dunn was clearly very touched from Maharaj. On the very first day she went there, in her journal, she wrote, "I fell in love with him." So her first day in Bombay, with all the noise and dust and chaos, and she didn't have a nice place to stay, blah, blah, blah. All this kind of stuff was going on the outside. But when she came to this small room, she said, "I fell in love immediately." So this love connection, I've talked about it quite often, and I know many of you who are in the Zoom today, you have this connection with me and I have it with you. So this heart connection is actually very, very important. And it's quite clear that Jean became very close to Maharaj in a personal way. He could recognize the love that she had for him. It wasn't only her, of course. For example, he had 2 translators, local men who came to his meetings every day and translated for the Western people. He spoke a local language, Marathi, and so it had to be translated into English. So these people also, of course, were completely devoted to him. And I'm sure there were other local Indian people who came regularly who were devoted to him. But at a certain point, many Western people came. And it was a bit like what I experienced with Papaji, that because he wasn't really in the Indian spiritual game, he wasn't really that popular with Indian people. The Indian spiritual game is very, very strong, and it's not a lot to do with actually what we're interested in. So if you really want to know yourself, then you can find out that Ramana Maharshi and Papaji and Maharaj, they were not giving any support to all the mumbo jumbo, spiritual mumbo jumbo, which most of the teachers and ashrams and so on in India are doing. You see, he lived in a very simple way, and you can get the feeling of that through her journal. So in particular, I want to read a little bit from the last day of her journal. So Maharaj unfortunately got throat cancer, and for the last, I think, year or 2 years of his life, he was in a lot of pain, and it was even difficult for him to talk. And several times in the last months, she's writing in a way that she didn't really expect him to be there the next day. So there were various periods where he got very bad. But anyway, on the day that turned out to be his last day, which was, where are we? 24th of April, 1981. So on this last day, in the morning meeting, Maharaj said to everybody in the meeting about Jean Dunn. She has developed such a great faith that any article in association with Maharaj is accepted by her with great devotion. Because of her great love of the Guru, the gods will rush to do pranams to her. Pranams means, how can I say it? I mean, this is a pranam, or you bend down in front of somebody, you bow down in front of somebody. So pranams means you recognize somebody. So he gave her a very beautiful, whatever you call it, I don't know. Anyway, he very clearly loved her very much. And on this last day of his, turned out to be his last day of his life. And he said to her, so the first thing was to the whole meeting. And then he said to her, there have been so many also-rans. Also-rans means people who were spiritual seekers who were coming for truth, but they didn't get it. Also-rans. Why are you the winning horse in this spirituality? The strength of your faith. So he gave a very clear reason to her that actually in the end, if you really want to come to truth, then the faith you have in that truth, which in one kind of way is faith in the teacher, because the teacher actually is a kind of gateway to the truth. It's not about having faith in the teacher exactly, but understanding that the teacher is a kind of gateway into the truth. And therefore he was telling the meeting how important that was, and how in fact Jean had shown by her visiting for 5 years. It's not so easy for a Western woman, I guess she would have been in her 50s, for her to stay living in India and then to make the journey across India to visit Maharaj. It wouldn't have been easy to stay in Bombay, in that kind of downtown market area, actually the red light district, so a little bit unsavory, you could say, for a woman. And she did all of that because of this amazing devotion she had to Maharaj. And she served him in the end by transcribing and editing 3 books. And these 3 books, of course, continue over the years. They're still available on Amazon many years after she's passed away. In fact, I think next year is her 100th centenary. So I had the idea that if we publish her book, we can connect it to her 100th centenary year. So in a way, it's not by accident that this book has shown up now, because I'm the kind of publishing company boss who would publish this, even though I have no permission from anybody to publish it. And in my feeling is I don't need anybody's permission, because this is a very important spiritual text which should be put out in the world. So I feel like I've got the permission of existence to put this out. I hope you don't find that arrogant, but that's how I take it. And so we're going to put a lot of work in now to make a beautiful book and publish it, I hope, probably at the end of this year, and get published. And that day, which turned out to be his last day, he also said that Jean had realized her true nature. And then a very beautiful thing happened in the evening, because after this day and these beautiful compliments towards her, she says, I was in a dazed state. I didn't remember any word of what he talked about all day. And I stumbled downstairs and did my prahams to him and left in the evening. So after so many compliments, so much energy, basically, you know, her mind had gone blank and she was kind of in a nice spiritual shock. And anyway, in the end of the day, she left the house. And then something very beautiful, he sent someone after her to bring her back so he could give her a box of sweets, and he gave her his blessings. She kissed his feet and left. So that happened in the evening, and that evening turned out to be the last night of his life, because that was when he passed. So amazing end to this journal, when you can feel the incredible love between these 2 people. And it seems to me that that love between these 2 people is all the reason I need to publish this book. I'm probably going to get into trouble from somebody, but I'm going to do it. So anyway, so I wanted to tell you my exciting week. If you're interested yourself in Maharaj, there's of course the famous book, I Am That. And in fact, in this last 5 years of his talks, once or twice he said that what he was talking about now in those last years was not the same as in I Am That. So he was suggesting that I Am That was a different level to what he was talking in the last period of his life. So as far as I can feel, there is a difference, because he himself had kind of matured, you can say. He was spiritually more mature in those last years. And so probably the best book you could get would be this one I've just talked about, Consciousness and the Absolute. And as an introduction, if you actually don't know much about him, there's this beautiful book. So when Jean was when Jean was living in Ramana Ashram, 40, 50 years ago, there was an interesting American couple who were living there with her. They were friends, and they've developed a foundation in America, a spiritual foundation. It's called where are we? What's it called? Inner Directions. It's called Inner Directions. And as part of Inner Directions, they have a publishing company. They also organize spiritual meetings, invite teachers and such things. And so this book, they have put this together. It's full of photographs of Maharaj. It's called The Wisdom Teachings of Nisargadatta Maharaj, a visual journey. The publisher is Inner Directions. And you can also get that from Amazon. So this book is full of the most wonderful photographs. And I mean, in one way, I would love to publish this book together with Jean's book. The two would go together very well, but that won't be possible. But I'm hoping that they will anyway let me use some of the photographs from the book, because I'm planning to put lots of photographs in to create some of the atmosphere of Bombay and the atmosphere in these meetings. So anyway, that was rather a big talk. I'm sorry if you're not interested in all that, but that's been my interest this week. So if anybody likes to engage me, let's start by dialoguing a bit about Maharaj, and maybe about what I was saying, that it's very important to have this heart connection, to feel a real deep connection. And of course, you can't make that happen. You have it or you don't have it. And when I look at the people today on the Zoom, I can see that almost every one of you has this connection towards me. And as I was saying, it's not really personal. I don't take it personally, but in another way, it is personal. And of course, I had this myself towards Osho. For many years, I felt this incredible devotion towards him. And then later, after he'd passed, and I went to visit Papaji, I also had this tremendous devotion towards him. And woven kind of in that is my devotion to Ramana Maharshi. And I've talked about that, I'm sure, many times. And I guess today is also going to mark some kind of moment for John David, because recently I've been feeling to promote the heart, promote devotion more. I've been talking in the past a lot about self-inquiry, and now I recently feel that I want to introduce more and more of the devotional aspects. And so I'll be, well, today I just got the idea sitting here that we'll start these meetings with a few minutes of the Open Sky band singing mantras, because recently our band has become very, very beautiful. In fact, I think yesterday there's a spiritual festival going on in Germany today and this weekend. And yesterday they gave a concert there. So I want to also support this band, because we've gathered many, many good musicians recently, in the last year particularly. And they're really doing some beautiful music and singing very beautiful mantras. So this is something I want to support. But I thought today, as I sat down here, I got the idea we can also start the meetings with this mantra music. Anyway, so I've been talking a lot. I must stop now if I can. And please, somebody come through and maybe respond to all these words. Okay. So we have somebody, I think I don't know this lady.
Can I say something?
I do know you.
Oh.
Aha. What is your name? I gave you a name, I think.
Bhakti.
Bhakti, you see? This is a woman, I thought I didn't know her, but actually
Japanese.
this is an old Japanese student who disappeared back into Holland. We don't see her very much. So when you first were there, I didn't recognize you.
Yes.
And I gave her the name Bhakti, you see, which is the Hindi word for devotion, yeah?
Yes.
So it's very nice that you're here today.
Yes. No, just I wanted to say, this is my treasure. Just today I came in last moment, and first 3 minutes, just silence with your words. Already, I noticed, and also you said like, allow yourself today more deeply go into inside, and that moment, I really recognized I'm always just in thoughts, so busy in the thoughts, and then also I don't notice normally, but just 3 minutes, then completely I'm more into myself, and the tears comes, and the words that you say is often I hear this same sentence words, but if you say that, it's really different. If I hear you are talking, then in just a short time, I really can go into my heart more inside. And this is, I appreciate so much. And I really recognized your energy, recognize, I don't know what is this. Yeah, like a mystery. Because it's the same words, but if you say so, and if I hear your words by you, then I can easily go into inside and completely different. And with not in the head, somehow I understand more just heart connection or go inside. Yeah, even if I sit by myself 1 hour, I cannot go this state. So it's amazing mystery, and I really appreciate this already. This is my treasure. Like, yeah, thank you so much. This is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, every word, Bhakti, is very beautiful, of course. You know, every word you just spoke is what every teacher would like to hear, you know? So this was like the most perfect talk you could possibly give to any teacher. And also, it's interesting for me that I had this kind of intuition today about moving more towards the devotional side, you could say, with this idea of starting the meetings with mantras. You know, we might not do this meditation every time. Maybe we'll finish with it. I'm not sure. Anyway, and then I didn't know who this strange-looking Japanese lady was, and I didn't recognize your name actually, because I know you as Bhakti, you know. Yes. And then you're Bhakti. So I gave you already probably 5 years ago, or maybe 7 years ago, I gave you the name Bhakti. Yeah. Yes. And of course, you're exactly the person to get this name. You see, I wasn't wrong to give you this name, because everything you've just said, not only does it touch me, but I'm sure many of the other people who are on the meeting today were also touched from what you said. So, you know, this is very, very beautiful. So after all those nice words, and now I need to be a bit tough on you. Okay, now I'm not going to be nice. Because Baxi, you came here some years ago. I don't know how many, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And everybody in our community likes you very much. Baxi plays a wonderful piano. She's a very, very good piano player. And, you know, we all encourage you to get more involved in the community, you know, in the meetings, even to come and live with us. And your response to that was to disappear for many years. We didn't see you for many years. And I'm sure you've been having fun in your life and so on and so on. But you see, what you were just saying about the effect of having this contact with John David today, this is exactly why we were encouraging you to stay connected to us. You know, for example, I have a meeting which happens every 3 months. Many of the people today, they're part of that meeting who come to the community every 3 months, yeah, for a weekend. And I mean, of course, it takes some kind of priority to organize your life in a way that maybe every 3 months you don't work that weekend. But the 4 weekends is only 1% of all the weekends in the year. So if you would choose not to work for 1% of the weekends in the whole year, I think you would still be able to eat and, you know, drive your car and all these things, you see. So it's a kind of priority. And what makes me feel sad is that you have a great potential, you know. You tell us just now beautiful words, how you were touched from this, you know, 5 minutes you were so touched. So you have the potential inside, you know, you have a beautiful potential. And somehow I don't feel you really honor yourself. You don't really honor that potential you have. So in that way, I need to not be so nice to you right now.
I see. I think, yeah, like my priority was or is, I don't know which one, but like I have a problem about money, and I have desire. This is desire to want to be rich, little more, like because now I'm proud or I'm happy because now I can live by myself for the eating in Holland. It's a foreign country with only piano, but I cannot earn more than normal day life. Then I'm searching, you know, to have also money. And if I become rich, inside is rich, money will come. This is my idea, but so far it still doesn't come. I'm a bit kind of struggle. I mean, not struggle. Like I have desire, like I want to be rich inside, and then, you know, money. But if I go more there, I become much more poor. Then, you know, in this society.
I'm sorry, Bhakti, but now I have to be really tough on you because what you've just been talking is total bullshit. Total bullshit, you know? So that's why it doesn't work. You talk about being rich, you know? You don't become rich by having a lot of money. You know, if all these very rich billionaires and millionaires and I don't know, these kind of very businessman people who make a lot of money, they have banks full of money and, you know, gold bars in their toilet is made out of gold or something. So then these people would somehow be the people who you can say live a very satisfying life, you know, because they're very rich inside. But they're not rich inside. Most of those people, I would say, some of them, of course, are rich inside. Wait a minute, I've lost my earphone, a minute.
Yes.
Okay. I'm getting so excited I lost my earphone. Okay. I need to really be tough on you now, because everything you said is somehow wrong, you know? And so when you're following this wrong ideas, then of course it's not really working very well, you know? And for example, I mean, you don't have to live in our community, but if you had come here 5 years ago, right, and been living for 5 years in our community, then for sure you wouldn't have any money. Sorry, you know, but you would have eaten, you would have had somewhere to sleep, you would have had a little pocket money for your makeup or whatever. You would have had, you know, other essential things like your telephone and health insurance. Everything would be covered by working in the community. So you would have what you need for life, but nothing really extra. Yeah. You wouldn't have the money to go on a holiday back to Japan, for example, probably. But what you would have by 5 years' time, you would have had the chance to become rich inside, really rich inside, because you have completely the potential for that. I'm sure everybody who listened to you would have felt that immediately, how you're very close to having this every moment of your life. Because those beautiful words you spoke is true. It's all true, you see. So if you can experience your own essence in those few minutes, you can experience your own essence every day of your life. And you're not doing that because in your mind you've got this strong desire for, you say, for money. And this desire leads you into a certain lifestyle and certain thoughts. You said, for example, that you hadn't realized how busy your mind is. Every day, probably, it's very, very busy. So this kind of busy mind, which of course is very common in the society, this makes it impossible to have contact with your essential nature. It's almost a kind of scientific thing that when up in your head where the mind is, where this is constantly buzzing with thoughts, it creates a kind of electrostatic energy, which is like a kind of block. You could say it's like a block. It cuts the natural flow of the energy of existence that's running through your system, through your body, mind, energy system. Yeah. And so very mindy people can't really connect to their own essence. And if you're not able to connect your own essence, you can't be living in love and peace. It's simply not possible. You see. So this is very sad for me to experience, because I know already 5 or 6 years ago that you have this potential. And now, to be honest, I completely forgotten about you because you never visit us. I'm very happy that you've come today into this meeting. And I hope what I'm saying to you will give you a little shock, you know, and you won't sleep so well tonight. And I hope we'll see you again soon, you know. Come and play your piano. Come and play our piano.
Yes. Actually, when you are not there, I went there in winter, last winter, for the Vipassana weekend.
Oh, you came for that?
Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how was that weekend for you?
Bit torture.
Torture.
Kind of, yeah. Because I had an experience like a 10 days Vipassana in silence. That you express like not all the time, just we sleep just normally, you know. But all the time, 24 hours this weekend. That was for me first time experience. And then my ass was so painful, you know, and it was bitter. Yeah, and that time I missed you so much because I thought you were there, but you are still in India. But even if so, I was so happy actually in the open sky house. And then I talked to, like, I forgot the new name, like I forgot Atma and Indira and everybody.
Yeah.
everyone, yeah, and everybody, and I also I had a question a lot, and it was so nice.
Yeah.
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 Mm,
So, darling, come and see us again. You know, don't leave it so long next time. Come,
mm,
come.
mm.
You know,
Yes, 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 yes.
everybody loves you very much. You know, and after
Mm,
what you just said, of course, John David, anyway, and his love is even more than before. You know,
mm, mm, mm,
and I think you have to respect that.
mm,
You know, what you spoke in the beginning is coming
mm,
from your essence. You know, you were speaking from your
mm,
essence. Tomorrow
mm,
you can watch the archive. You know, maybe now you
mm,
can't. You're not so aware of what's happening, but tomorrow watch on the website. You can
mm,
watch the archive. You can listen to your talking and listen to my reply, and you'll find
mm,
it very interesting. I think you see,
mm,
because
mm,
when you first spoke, that was almost definitely coming from your essence, coming from your nature, deep inside. You know, because it was very
mm,
beautiful what you were talking. You see,
mm,
so you have the possibility to connect to your
mm,
essence.
mm, mm,
And we'd
mm,
love to have a Japanese living with us, you know,
mm.
we'd love to have you.
But I have a question. That time I felt like my, true nature essence.
Yeah,
But as a human in this world, how do you think it is possible to be that connection 24 hours all the time? I think it is not possible because we
well,
also, mm,
well, I mean, in my own case, I can say that I have that connection most of the time. I can't say it's
mm,
24 hours because
uh-huh,
things
mm,
happen, you know. Sometimes things
mm,
happen and things get
yeah,
touched, and so
mm,
it's not 24 hours probably. I'm not really
mm,
counting the hours,
mm,
but for sure, it's basically possible to live
mm,
with what you experienced in this meeting most
mm,
of the time. Most of the time. It can be the
mm,
basis of your life, you know, the ground of your life. And that's
mm,
possible for everybody. It's absolutely
mm,
possible.
mm, mm. I see. Mm. I think at least I can be much more longer with this connection. Yeah.
Of course, of course.
Mm,
And you
mm,
said yourself that you were quite surprised to realize how many thoughts you had in your mind,
mm.
you
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
So when you wouldn't have all those thoughts, you know, you would have
Mm,
much more ability to connect to your essence.
mm. Yeah.
It's
And
like
once,
I,
yeah.
it's like the sky, you know. If you look up
Mm,
at the sky is blue, yeah. But
mm.
actually, we in northern Europe, we don't see that blue because there's so many clouds, yeah.
Yeah.
Most days we have so many clouds, we can't see the blue sky. But then, for
Mm,
example, the last 2 or 3 weeks, there were no clouds. There was only blue sky every day. You see, those
mm,
clouds are kind of a metaphor for your mind, for your thinking, for your
mm.
ego, all the structures of
Yeah.
your mind. And those structures act exactly like the clouds. And therefore, you're
Mm,
not in contact with the blue sky. And you're not really in
mm,
contact with your own essence. But your essence is
mm,
always there. It's always there, of course. The blue
mm,
sky is
mm,
always there.
mm, mm. Yes. Mm. Thank you.
Okay, nice to talk to you. Yeah,
Nice to talk to you. Yes.
yeah. So perhaps somebody else likes to come through. Was anybody touched from what Bhakti has been saying? Because perhaps you yourself have this situation where on the one hand, you know, we have glimpses of our true nature, and on the other hand, we compromise our life and we are ready to live our life in this mindy daily movie. This is pretty common, I would say. So was anybody else maybe a bit touched from what Bhakti was saying? Perhaps Durga would like to comment. Where is she gone? Oh, there she is. Okay.
Is my microphone turned on?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I always have a problem with this Zoom meetings. I don't really get so emotional or so connected. So it didn't really touch me in the heart. Like it kind of touched me in the mind, but not. It's not the same as if we're sitting and in the satsang together, face to face. So.
Well, some people say it's even stronger because you're connecting at home in your own environment. And I must say that I've been personally very touched from these meetings because, for example, this meeting I just had with Bhakti, I mean, I don't think that could have been any more profound if we were face to face in one room. It was very beautiful for me to connect with her. And I mean, everybody's different, you know. For example, I met you a few days ago here in the community. You were eating your lunch and you were planning not to come to Spain because you had all kind of important priorities for your life. A bit like Bhakti, you wanted to make money so that you can be secure, look after your children, be independent from your parents. So you had a big philosophy behind how important it was to not come to Spain, yeah? And then somehow I spontaneously gave you a hard time. And then somebody who you care about at the moment, who's also in this meeting, he and you had some sort of heart openings together, and you both decided to come to Spain because you want to carry on your love affair for a couple more weeks. And anyway, it might be fun in Spain to listen to John David sometime. So you changed all your terribly high priorities to make money, and you're now coming to Spain, yeah?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think probably the best thing I said to you, actually, one of the best things I said to you was that you have to be very, very careful in your life because it's very easy to make a decision which sets you on a path which is not bringing you to your essence, but a path that takes you away from your essence. And, you know, people do this all the time. It seems like a small decision, but the small decision leads to another big decision. And before you know what, your priority is to become a language teacher and write books about language or something, you know, and then you spend your whole life as a language teacher. There's nothing wrong with that, but maybe it's not going to bring you to where you have some kind of priority to come, you see?
Yeah.
So I said that to you, and maybe that touched you because quite quickly you came and told us that you were coming to Spain. So I don't know whether I should give myself a gold star or would you give Ole a gold star, because these love affair stories are never quite, it's never quite clear then.
But what I realized is really, as you said, like all these reasons why I couldn't come, it was really like a whole concept in my mind. And it was really logical and yeah, it made sense. So, but as soon as I changed this decision, then it was so easy. For example, I just went to my work and talked to my boss and I said, okay, I finally decided I will be away for 2 weeks. and there was not a problem at all. So she just said okay, and she like put everything into the computer to change the classes. And so all these reasons what I thought was so complicated, it didn't really exist. And
Right,
like
right.
the same for this meeting, I also like sent a message to Indira telling her why I couldn't come and why it all on Saturdays. Like I'm always with the kids, so I can't really participate in the Zoom meetings. But then today I just thought, okay, I will just like call my parents spontaneously and ask if I can drop off the kids like for 2 hours. And yeah, it was all fine. So I left them there. I came back. Now I'm in this meeting. Afterwards, I'm going to pick them up. It's not really complicated. It's
Right,
just in the
right.
mind that it's
Well, I think what you've just said is quite profound, in fact. I mean, I know there's one person in today's meeting who needed to hear what you're saying, you know, because I was telling her the same thing recently in a rather powerful meeting we had. And so it's good for her to hear this from your experience, yeah? But this is exactly what I've been experiencing for many years now. That what we don't seem to realize is that actually we are creating our own life moment by moment. You see, we're creating it. And so if you make some kind of priority, for example, 2 weeks ago, you told us, you know, I've got to do these teachings and they can't find anybody to take over my classes and it's impossible for me to come. Yeah. But that reason was also connected to ideas about money and the children and blah blah blah. The reality is we found you a young girl who and well actually a mother and daughter now. I mean there was a young girl who spoke French, but in the end we didn't offer her the job. We've got a mother and daughter from Venezuela, very heartful people who will look after your children and my children, you know. So we managed to find in the last moment somebody for the kids, and then you know all the other things. And in the end, there isn't really any issue. And you know we can be afraid that you know you're going to be zapped by thousands of viruses in the plane, you know, but probably you won't be, you know. And so you'll survive for another day, you know, and life goes on, you know.
Yeah.
And and so we have to be very aware of what's going on in our mind, you know. We have to be very aware that you know when we get into sort of philosophies and concepts and old structures, then all that stuff doesn't allow us to live in our essence or to be in our essence. And if you have a priority to be in your essence, be in your essence. And if you're in your essence, your whole life will support that. It's unbelievable, you know, in many, many ways, my life supports me with that. So I've had this book from Maharaj for 2 months, I think. And I wanted to start working with it and deciding if I'm going to publish it. And 2 days ago, I woke up in the morning and it was almost like Maharaj was there, actually, I could say, because there was this energy, some sort of energy. And I spent the whole day non-stop working on this book. And basically, in one day, we more or less got this book finished. It didn't quite get finished the first day, so we finished it the second day. So in 2 days, we kind of got this whole book together, which could take months. But it doesn't take months because now I've done 30 books in the last years. I know what size the letters should be and the spacing and how we put it on the page and what kind of introduction you need in the beginning of the book and blah, blah, blah. So I know all these things. I even designed the cover of the book that day, not the final one, but one idea. Yeah? So this all came together in one day because absolutely that day I was 24 hours in my essence because I felt Maharaj was there. I was like I became him or something. I can't explain it, but any doubts I may have had whether I should publish it or not, they all vanished. And if I'm going to get into trouble, I'm ready to get into trouble. I might end up in a court or something. I don't care, you know, but probably I won't. And so on, you know. So when all these kind of things around, suddenly they were like swept on the side, and I focused on the book, and then everything started to happen, you know. And you can create your whole life like that. So this little warning I gave you, that be careful when you're deciding on a path, you know, because a little decision can, after a few years, take you far away, far away, you see. And I'm sure Atma is very interested in this conversation, because the other day she was telling me when she was a young woman in her 20s, she was absolutely hot. And her main priority in her life was the spiritual truth. Yeah. And now she's made some decisions in her life, the kind of decision that you might have made. But over the years, she's made some decisions. And in this meeting the other night, I think it was a shocking meeting for her, actually, because she had to see that all these little decisions have all added up, you know, like you make one decision, another, and before you know where you are, you're right off the track. You're right off the track. And your priority is no longer where you thought your priority was, you see. And it's not that anything is wrong, you know, because every life you lead is the life you're supposed to lead, actually, you know. We're always doing what we're supposed to do, yeah. But also when we see clearly what is happening, how these things happen. For example, I can give you one example. When I was living in the beginning with Osho, when I was about 30, so this is 40 years ago, I saw that many of the people in the ashram would come for some months. Maybe they stay for 3 months, and then they go back to the West and make money, and they come back again the next year and stay maybe 3 or 4 months again. And that was kind of my possibility, because I had no money. But I decided I don't want to do that. I said to myself, I don't want to be going all the time backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. I'm going to stay here. So I made this inner decision, I'm going to stay. But still I had no money, right? And actually from that decision, I lived something like 7 years constantly in India. 7 years, right? How did it happen? How could I do that? You see? And of course, it happened in all kind of different ways. You know, for example, I used to paint. I used to paint quite big pictures. And I got the idea, okay, I cut my pictures into small pieces and I stick them on cards and sell them in the ashram, in the shop, as greeting cards, you know? And this was very, very popular. And just by chance, my lover happened to run the shop. So of course, she was very happy to sell my cards, yeah, because she was my lover. So all these kind of things, you could say, that were organized by existence to support my decision. I could never have decided, okay, I get this woman, she'll be my lover and she'll be in the shop, and then she will want to have my cards in the shop, you know? Another woman might not have liked the cards, you see? Maybe she didn't like them, but she liked me, you know? So this kind of thing carried on for 7 years, you know? I rented some rooms, I made candles, I used to supply, in Osho's ashram, you know, there were a lot of people, about 2,000 people, and they had 3 restaurants. And I started to supply candles they put on the tables, you know? And I had lots of creative ideas for candles, and you can make them very cheaply in India. So this was also another business that kept me, you know, eating in India. And later, when I came to Lucknow, I rented a house and created a guest house. And for 4 years, I ran this guest house. And the income of this guest house was exactly enough for my scooter, my food, and it gave me a room where I could live. Exactly. Nothing extra, you know. I didn't go off to the Himalayas for holidays or something. I didn't have any extra money at all, but I had always, for 4.5 years, I had enough for my scooter, repairing it and the petrol. I had enough for my food, and I had enough to run the guest house. You know, I had some servants and so on helping me, and I had enough to have a room in the guest house. So I had all my basic needs covered, but nothing extra. You know, God didn't say, "Oh, you deserve, you know, a holiday in the mountains or something." Didn't give me a bonus, but it exactly gave me what I needed for 7 years in India. This is pretty amazing, amazing. And so I would say without any question that you don't have to worry about money, Bhakti. Hello, Bhakti. You don't need to worry about money, you see, because it comes by itself. Because life comes from your own manifestation. What you manifest in the world, it comes. Anyway, good. I'm sorry you don't like the Zoom, but maybe you should try a few more.
Yeah, now in this third conversation, I appreciate it more, but I don't know. Maybe I was kind of tired before, so.
Probably you had some idea, you know, you have a few ideas, yeah?
Yeah, maybe also.
Okay. Anyway, you know, I very much appreciate the fact that you have 2 children and not an easy relationship, and you still show up a lot, actually. So that's very, very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we're running out of time. We're anybody else like to come in just for a few minutes? Otherwise, I think we'll stop. Okay. I always find these meetings interesting because we have hardly talked much about Maharaj. We've talked a lot about other important things. And yeah, so that's very good. Okay, so thank you very much. And